we'll go ahead and get started then. It is 12:30. We're going to go ahead and get started with our chip chat, so go ahead and find a seat wherever you'd like. Yeah, we'll go ahead and wait for people to get settled. It looks like we have a few friends who are just joining us right now. And we'll go ahead and wait. While we do so, the chimpanzees are going to start getting their lunch. That'll be tossed down from our amazing animal care staff way up there. And they're going to be tossing down, looks like, some oranges today for lunch. We'll give a second for both our chimpanzees and humans to get settled down, guys. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about the reasons why we hear loud vocalization. We have one of our girls is getting mad at one of our boys right now. There's a lot of different reasons why they'll do that. Like any social group, there's a lot of drama that happens from time to time. Seems like one of our boys, but we'll see. Seems like she's calming down a little bit as she gets some food. If we all don't mind taking a seat or sticking to the sides, that makes it a little bit easier for our friends who are taking a seat so that everybody can get a good view. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, y'all. Alrighty, guys. So that was a lot of excitement to start off our talk. Welcome to the Chimp Chat. How are you all doing today? Good, welcome. So the way this works, this is a 15-minute program. We're going to talk all things chimpanzees. We're going to talk chimpanzees here, chimpanzees in the wild, a little bit about what's going on. And if there's any questions you all have, anything you think of during the talk, anything you came here really wanted to know that isn't answered by it, go ahead and hold on to those. We'll go ahead and see if we can't get those answered for you. No, I'm going to do a quick show of hands. How many of you are here because you really love chimpanzees? You want to know everything about their behavior and social dynamics? Okay, we got like 3 people. How many of you are here because you just want to see the babies? Yeah, there's 3 babies. So we'll talk about that in 1 second. Yeah, a lot of show heads. That's kind of what I figured. So we'll tailor our talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the babies. How many of you didn't know there were babies and this is a total surprise to you? Wow, fun. Okay, cool. We'll cover all that good stuff. What's going on over here? Right now, our chimpanzees are getting their lunch. You'll see we have a number of them. So we'll start with a little bit of an overview about our chimps. Here at the LA Zoo, we have 17 chimpanzees. We got 10 girls and 7 boys, all the way from our youngest boy, that one we were looking at a second ago, who is 8 days old, all the way up to our oldest female, Regina, who is 41 years old. So mixes of ages and personalities. Now, while 41 would be considered pretty old if she was in the wild, thanks to the quality of care that chimpanzees receive at institutions like the LA Zoo, chimpanzees have been known to live into their 50s and even 60s. So at 41, Regina's doing pretty good. While we're moving around, we're hanging on out here. Most of the ones we're looking at, we got a good mix of boys and girls that are hanging out over here. We have one of our younger males, Oliver, who's moving right in front of us, kind of checking things out. We have some of our girls. Gracie is moving around. Now, one of the things you'll notice throughout this talk, or when you're talking to any staff member or anyone familiar with these guys, is we use a lot of names. And names are really important because they help us tell. Yeah, we always have to stop talking whenever they do that because even on mic, I am no match for those vocal cords. Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons they'll be vocalizing. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about behavior and whatnot. But one of the questions people get asked, especially if it's their first, how many of you it's your first time seeing the chimps here? Okay, so we have some people who are familiar, some people who are maybe a little bit newer. We'll do it, this might be a refresh for some of you, this might be familiar for others. But some of the things we'll look for, so knowing the names is really important because it helps us tell who's who. But it can be really hard if you show up for the first time and then you have to memorize like 17 different names, kind of figuring out what's going on. So I'm gonna give you a couple tips and tricks you can use to tell not just what's going on with our chimpanzees, but kind of give you an idea of what's happening with any chimpanzees that you happen to come across, whether that's here, another institution in the wild, or on social media or in movies or some other thing we're going on here. Now, one of the things we get asked quite frequently is, how do you tell a boy from a girl? And that's one of the things you can look for that'll change the behavior. So you'll notice a lot of the screaming is being done by the girls and a lot of the kicking on the doors is being done by the boys. And the reason I can tell you that's happening is not just because I know them as individuals, because there's something you can look for that can help you tell who is who, kind of what's going on. It actually has to do with something else that we get asked, probably our most frequently asked question, though some people are too embarrassed. Yeah, some of our boys are doing some more vocalizations. Yeah, we say that. Actually has to do with something else that you probably have noticed which is, how many of you were wondering what's up with their butts? Yeah, that pink swelling. It's okay, you guys can put your hands down. For all of you who didn't raise your hand, don't worry. I know you guys were wondering, you're just too embarrassed to raise your hand in public. It's okay though, I'm the one on mic, I'll call it out. Their butts look a little bit funky. So that pink swelling you see is called tumescence. That is something you see on female chimpanzees. So for example, and then how pink and swollen it is, we'll tell you what part of her cycle she's in. So we have one of our girls who's moving over here. You'll notice her rear end is a little bit more swollen than some of our boys who were walking by a minute ago. So that's something you can use to kind of tell who's who, what's going on. It'll also tell you a lot, like if you see a lot of boys checking out a girl who's particularly swollen, that's a really good indicator of what part of the cycle she's in. And they're kind of just keeping an eye on that. I like to say shorthand, how do you tell what's going on besides other things, like the boys tend to be a little bit larger than the girls, that sort of thing. The other thing you can look for that'll kind of tell you a lot about behavior, and that we've seen a lot this morning that's going on, is actually has to do with their age. Now, a lot of people, when they first come across chimpanzees, a lot of times it's on social, a lot of times it's on social media or in movies. And people see those chimpanzees, they look at our chimpanzees, they look a little bit different. One of the biggest differences you'll notice between those is gonna have to do with the color of their skin. Now, if you think of a stereotypical chimpanzee in your mind, if you think of ones you might have seen in a movie, you'll notice a lot of those chimpanzees have really light pink skin or light brown typically. And a lot of people assume that has to do with their species. These guys have darker gray skin for the most part, except for one of our boys just coming down right here. That's a good showing off. So we'll use him as an example. This is Johari. You can take a good look at him. You notice that his skin is a little bit lighter. You'll also notice he has like 5 tomatoes in her mouth and another one in his hand. So that's great. Yeah, that's very like, I think he's 12-year-old boy of him. And that's, yeah, I don't know. Some things are true across species, I guess. One thing you'll notice is that he has much lighter skin than the others. So when all chimpanzees, when they're born, and you'll see this with our newborn chimpanzee, they have bright pink coloration to their skin. And as they get older, it darkens out to almost this dark gray, almost black that we see with our girls over here. So the fact that you see these girls, including our mama up here, you have that dark gray, almost black coloration to their skin, that tells you they're a little bit older, they're a full adult. Johari is 12, so he's like right on the edge. He's kind of like a young adult at this point, juvenile, teenager almost. Sorry, one of our boys is doing a little bit of vocalizing right now. Some of our boys are getting a little bit amped up right now. Okay, looks like he calmed it down a little bit. But Johari is not quite, he doesn't have quite the bright pink of his baby brother. You'll notice that if you see the baby, he has very, very pink skin. You can actually see it from a good distance away. And then he's not quite the dark gray of the adults. He's got sort of an in-between. So that tells you you're looking at a younger individual, younger adult. And then it also tells you, we're talking about how you tell that as a boy. So you'll notice that a lot of the antics he does, you are very much related to that. So the kicking on the doors, the showing off, checking out all the girls, that's very typical for a younger male. And that kind of gives you a clue about his behavior and what's going on. So we see some of our chimpanzees are moving around right now. Yeah. So one of the things you'll notice about our chimpanzees is that we have 17. That's one of the largest troops in North America. But troops in the wild can sometimes number over 100 individuals. As a result, it's really important that if they need to communicate, they're able to do so quickly and efficiently. And they've been showing off that communication very well for us during this talk today with all that learns. Because they're sometimes spread over several square miles, and if they need to communicate, a lot of times they'll do it through screaming. And that's kind of their way of communicating. Now, a lot of people, they hear the screaming. We get a lot of people who kind of run up here. We did have that today, actually. It was very quiet before we started, and we heard a lot of screaming, and a lot of people rushed on over. Now, what do you guys think is the number one assumption people make when they hear a bunch of animals screaming all together and moving around? That they're fighting, yeah. So a lot of people come here, they're like, oh my God, they're fighting. Oh my God, what's happening, what's happening? And then here. And like we did see a little bit of chasing over here. That did happen this morning. That's not always like that. But for the most part, it's kind of just everybody sitting, getting their lunch, doing their thing. So communication in chimpanzees, just like it is for us humans, there's a lot of different reasons why they'll talk to each other. That call in particular that you tend to hear every single day right around this time is something we call a pant hoot. So for those of you who are listening carefully, it started off really, really low, and then it's with 1 or 2 individuals, and then it slowly increased in pitch with more and more chimpanzees joining in, till it sounded like they were all screaming in unison, and then stop. And we had some separate, unrelated screaming after that. But that's the main call we'll hear. And we tend to hear that call every single day right around this time. Now, what just happened for our chimpanzees? They got lunch. Yep, exactly. So chimpanzees are really, really smart. And they know something really interesting. They know that every single day at 12:30, if you notice what made them make that call, it actually wasn't even the keeper showing up. It was actually something like this. I turned on this mic, and I went like this. And chimpanzees are really, really smart. They know that every time this mic turns on, they get lunch. So that way, when they hear the mic turning on, they hear that little signal. That's their way of being like, okay guys, it's time to go over, let's go get food. And a lot of people hear that screaming. And they're like, oh my God, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. That's crazy, they were all screaming. Oh my God, that's so crazy that they were all doing that. And then I always have to ask people, because they're like, I've never seen anything like that. It's like, have you ever been in a classroom or office when someone says there's free food? Yeah. Free food is exciting no matter what species you are. Chimpanzees are no exception. They're definitely all going to be moving over, making sure they get their food. So we have Mama over here, so we'll transition. But that's one of the reasons while they communicate. We also had some showing off from some of our boys, and then some of the boys were bothering some of the girls, which is why you heard a lot of screaming. So there's a lot of different reasons why we'll make those. But that's one of the most common ones you'll hear throughout the day is that pant hoot. Since we've got her right in front of us, though, we'll transition. Let's talk a little bit about Zoe. So this is Zoe. This is her baby boy. Her baby boy was born last Sunday around 11 a.m. So she's about 8 days old over here. We actually have big brother is this might be brother right here, or unless he moved over further that way. But Johari, that individual we were looking at a second ago, and he's been a really good big brother, kind of checking things out, making sure everything looks good, kind of grooming mom and baby. So that's kind of the relationship we have here. For those of you who were here before a week ago, you might be like, oh, I thought you had 2 babies. No, because we have 3 babies. So as of a week ago, we had 2 babies, now we have 3 babies. The other 2 babies are both girls. They're hanging out with their moms in their pet house right now. So they're a couple months old. They're August 20th and September 9th are their birthdays. And then we have these guys over here, so lots of babies throughout the zoo. Oh, we're actually looking, so up here on this cliff right here is big sister to the older baby. So lots of sibling dynamics that are going on here. We also had the dads who were hanging out a minute ago that are moving all in that direction. But yeah, everyone's kind of related, kind of checking things out, what's going on. Now, every time we mention that there's baby, we have 5 million questions, and the questions are never the same, and everybody wants to know about them. So we're gonna transition this time to a little bit of Q&A. What do you guys want to know? It doesn't have to be about the babies, but what are like some burning questions about them? Go ahead and Yeah, that's a good question. What was the birthing process like? So, for the most part, chimpanzee moms in the wild, they'll kind of go off on their own and do the birthing process like a little bit on their own. In terms of Zoe's birthing process, she was actually on exhibit that morning. Gave birth. It's a lot quicker than it is for humans. It doesn't take like 8 hours or whatever. It's a little bit shorter. But yeah, so that happened here. I will tell you, I was not actually in this session. I was hanging out with the goats when it happened. But I will tell you the really fun one that I think is really interesting, and we actually have footage on this, is Yoshi, who is the mom of the oldest baby, the one born in August. She gave birth in sort of a like nesting room, nursery room that we had in the back in their bedrooms. It happened overnight when the keepers were not here. And one of the really fun, because you brought up other chimpanzees kind of helping with that process, it's one of my favorite stories that I've seen so far, or that I've gotten to see, is, so imagine this, it's not a full bed, but it's kind of like a ledge right here. Yoshi was on top of the ledge, on her back, you know, with her legs spread as the baby comes out, and her mom is Regina, that older one we were talking about, who's grandma to this little one. And you can actually see on footage, every couple of minutes, grandma basically going like, and basically checking as the birth progresses. And grandma's been actually one of the big ones. She's been helping out with mom, making sure she's not overwhelmed by the other chimpanzees, making sure that everything's safe. So it's definitely, like the saying is, it takes a village. They're all kind of chipping in. When the babies get a little bit older, they'll spend more time with like the boys, and they'll take turns babysitting and whatnot. But in terms of the birthing process, that was one of the really fun things to kind of come out of this, was seeing that relationship play out. So yeah, grandma was present for the birth of her granddaughter. which is really, really cute. What else? How long are they? How long are they pregnant for? Yeah. So one of the things you'll notice about chimpanzee pregnancy and infancy is it's very similar in a lot of ways to humans, which makes sense. We share about 99% of our DNA. So their pregnancy is about 8.5 months compared to about 9 months for a human. Their infancy, like they reach maturity for the girls around 8 to 10 years old, which like we consider like getting your period basically as adulthood. So stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff is very similar, just maybe a little bit sooner, a little bit different. So you can actually look at a lot of the milestones that I'm sure some of my parents are thinking of right now in terms of their own children. It's all very, very closely related in that way, or adjacent. Yeah, what's up? Yes, they do have 2 sets of breasts for the girls. Boys too, technically, but they're vestigial. They're not using those to nurse. Was there something else? So mom actually moved further that way, so she's probably up on the cliff over here right now. She walked by a second ago, and the other 2 babies are up in the penthouse, that green building. You can kind of see through the trees right there. So that's where our babies are.
Hey, get down. Come on. Hold on. You stuck? Be careful. You okay? No, we'll come back and see the monkeys you need to eat. No, ever. Don't go up there. Go up.
One sitting. One is sort of a little bit behind. That one that's sitting, the two in her mouth.
Yeah.
I think she told it to me.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Did it with two?
But I want to see her baby.
Just put them after the string and look at them.
Some of the ones that like with the water and the whole.
From the eighth family.
Yeah, they're one of the, I think it's seven great
You want me to lift you back up, Ari?
gorillas. Bonobos, another one.
I don't even know that one.
Bonobo looks almost exactly like
Baby, oh, that's really pretty.
Here she comes. She's got another blanket.
Yeah, so they'll start crawling around 5 months old. They'll start being a little more independent about them. But don't
Robbie, look! Oh wait, don't get her in her shot. Please, Robbie.
Is that monkey?
Chimpanzee.
You think a gorilla?
That's a chimpanzee. Look, it says chimpanzee right there. Chimpanzee. Forest.
How many?
Two right there. How about over there?
That's three.
next to you. And then
What are they eating? A banana?
Four.
What are they eating? A banana? That's a banana.
Robbie, they're eating tomatoes and veggies.
That is right. Yeah, they all use tomatoes.
That's four gorillas.
Robbie, let's go see the giraffe.
most of our canoes
Over here.
Come on, guys. Over half of them are related to each other in some way or another. So they wanted to bring in new chimpanzees to like mix up the genetics, which is cool. Zoe is yeah. So the moms are mostly the youngest mom is I think 19 or 20. Yeah, so we were waiting. So one of the reasons why we had to wait was because we had to wait for new individuals to come in to bring in new genetics, basically. and then we couldn't just pair them right away. We had to wait for them to get like accepted socially into the group, and then we have to wait for like approval from the governing board and stuff, and then we had babies. Yep. So if you see a girl that doesn't have a baby, chances are she's on birth control. These are chimpanzees. Yeah, we also have orangutans and gorillas. The orangutans also have babies.
That's a daddy.
Hi.
Oh my goodness. He's giving us a show. Oh.
Wait a minute. I think I see popcorn in there.
Get a video.
Oh, waffle.
That one. Then climb up.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I should have taken this picture when they were coming over. Well, I'm waiting to see the how they're
Oh, he's pink.
Did you see her pink?
I didn't.